Frankie Edgar versus the Korean zombie Jung takes place in the main event of UFC Fight Night 165, South Korea Busan. It's going to be an amazing fight. I can't wait for this one. Short notice replacement situation going on here. I was really looking forward to Brian Ortega versus the Korean zombie. Way more than I was this fight, because now we've kind of just got the guy who's coming off a loss. Also lost to Brian Ortega, who was the original guy that was supposed to be in there. I'll be honest with you guys. I was going to pick Korean Zombie to beat Brian Ortega. I think I'm going to pick Korean Zombie to beat Frankie Edgar as well. I think he's a huge man for featherweight, and I think a lot of people forgot just how big of a featherweight he once was. He's a huge man. Great chin. I know he got clipped by Yair Rodriguez, but there doesn't come a better chin than fucking Korean Zombie. And there's no way he would have ever seen that elbow coming. So anyone in the world would have got KO'd by that chin. Even James Vick would have been KO'd by that fucking elbow, okay? That's how hard that elbow was. Even James Vick's granite chin would have been KO'd stiff by that elbow. Yair Rodriguez is a beast, but we're talking about Edgar versus Korean Zombie. I'm going with Korean Zombie. He's a larger man. I also feel like usually the larger man statement wouldn't mean much because Edgar's still packing on some size himself at 145. But if you think about it, Frankie Edgar has been cutting down to 135 pounds for a very long time now. And Jose Aldo just trimmed 10 pounds of overall body weight off to make the 135 pound limit. I wonder if Frankie Edgar was in the middle of a similar transformation himself. Because if he was, which I'm willing to bet that he was, because there's a very good chance that he was drastically changing his body size to make 135 pounds against Corey Sandhagen in January, which is only a month later. I'm wondering if he's going to be a bit smaller than he usually would be at 145 pounds. And I think he is going to be a little bit smaller. And I think that's going to really come in to help the Korean Zombie. I also think that a great way for Frankie Edgar to win this fight would be to come back in the later rounds. Short notice. So I don't think that's a really good thing to bet on. For him to have that cardio of Korean Zombie, who's had full notice for this camp a very long time ago. I mean, Korean Zombie's known he was fighting for a very long time. I'm willing to bet that Korean Zombie knew he was fighting in July. As soon as he beat Renato Moicano, I'm sure the UFC has told him, you're fighting at South Korea, we're going there at the end of the year. So he's had long notice for this fight. I feel like he's going to show up in way better shape because of the full camp. I feel like Edgar's not going to be able to capitalise in the later rounds. And I feel like also Korean Zombie isn't going to get submitted or finished on the ground. I don't see that happening whatsoever. I feel like Korean Zombie's going to go out there and put some stiffies on Frankie Edgar's face and flatten him out. And I think it's going to be a terrible thing to watch because Edgar did a favour for the UFC. I hope he's getting a pay boost or something from this, because this does him no favours whatsoever. I mean, to be honest, actually, now with Holloway just lost to Alexander Volkanovski, maybe Edgar could really see potential in winning this fight and going somewhere with it. Because if Holloway was champion, the odds of Edgar getting a rematch after Holloway just kind of outclassing him for 5 rounds wasn't very likely. But now with Aldo moving down to bantamweight and is going to get treated like a winner from bantamweight, so Edgar probably doesn't like that either, because he's lost to Aldo twice, and if Aldo gets the bantamweight belt, then Edgar's fucked, because they're not going to make a third fight. So maybe this has all worked out very well for Frankie Edgar without him even realising it. Volkanovski has the belt now, which means that Frankie Edgar would be a fresh opponent and a fresh contender for Volkanovski to face. Aldo's moving down to 35 and won his debut, technically, if you watch the fight instead of listening to what the judges said. And if Aldo gets the belt of bantamweight, Edgar's fucked. So maybe this is the best move for him. I still think he's going to lose, but maybe this is a really good move for him if he wins. Because if he wins and Holloway loses the rematch, and Edgar faces a Zabit or a Yair Rodriguez, I mean, if Edgar wins this weekend, he's one win away from a title shot. That's basically how this is going to work. That's great. Good for Frankie Edgar. A nice little rebirth in his career. Suddenly this fight means way more to me. I didn't even realise this until I just broke it down now. This fight's way more interesting than I once thought. Whoever wins this is one fight away from a title shot. And I think it's going to be Korean Zombie. I think the hand power, the punching power is going to be too much in the first and second round, I believe. Frankie Edgar is a guy who's on his way out of his career. I'm sure we can agree with that. He took a lot of damage in the Holloway fight as well. Even though it wasn't a war, he took his knocks and he got rocked a couple of times in that Holloway fight. And before that, he got KO'd by Brian Ortega. I mean, Edgar's having some tough times recently. I feel like Korean Zombie's going to give him some more tough times. You look at what Korean Zombie's done since coming back to the featherweight division after military service. Just whooping ass, man. Dennis Bermudez comes in, flattens him. Fights Yair Rodriguez. Beats him for a four rounds, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. That's what Korean Zombie did to Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez won 1 second of that fight, and it happened to be the last second. And he got himself the win. But if you watch that fight, Korean Zombie, in my eyes, looked like a winner. Because he was really schooling Yair Rodriguez in that fight. And bear in mind, it was on short notice for Yair. But even still, Korean Zombie's a savage. Then he goes out there and destroys Renato Moicano. All of these guys, I feel like, would give Frankie Edgar issues. Yair Rodriguez in a rematch, I think, would do some bad things for Frankie Edgar. I also feel like Renato Moicano would be a tough matchup for Frankie Edgar as well. And Korean Zombie's going out there and making him look silly. I think he's going to win. I really do. I don't know where he's going to go after this. I really don't. Maybe they try and rebook the him versus Ortega fight. Because Ortega, at the end of the day, is still very highly ranked in the division. Especially with Aldo out of the mix now. So we'll see what happens. I don't see him fighting Zabit or Yair Rodriguez next. I think the logical step would be Yair versus Zabit for the next title shot. And then maybe Korean Zombie, if he wins this one, can take on the loser of Volkanovski Holloway, or try and rebook the fight with Brian Ortega. We'll see what happens. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Korean Zombie by second round TKO. Goodbye.